Hey guys, MinishCap1 here. I'm going to be doing a video today talking about Riot's upcoming nerfs to Predator. But before we get into that, it is going to be a speaking head video today. And I really appreciate if you guys would leave your thoughts on my points here in the comments and let me know what you think about what I'm saying and what you think about Riot's decision to nerf the rune here, and just in general, what you think about, I guess, the state of the game right now. I would love to go through those and read those. I try and read as many comments as I can actually on the channel. You know, if I can react to any of them and maybe do even like a reaction video to your guys' comments, to your takes on this, I'd really appreciate that as well. That being said, I'm going to be speaking about Riot's upcoming nerfs to Predator today. They have decided to nerf the rune. And I will talk about why I think it's justified, and then why I think that, you know, even though it's justified, why I think they're doing it in the wrong way. Why I think that they're approaching the change, you know, incorrectly. Okay, well, first of all, let's read what the actual nerf to Predator is. So the nerf to Predator is basically a full revert of the buff they gave it before Worlds. The movement speed is going down from 60% to 45%, and the ramp up time is being increased back up to 1.5 seconds from 1 second. Alright, so here's why I think the nerf is justified. I think the nerf is justified because, you know, like a lot of people are saying, there are a lot of champions who Predator is not intended to be used for, who are abusing the rune. So you have or in obviously unintentional ways. So you have things like, you know, Predator Assassins. Predator Assassins are the big ones. You have like Predator, you know, Akali. You have Predator, I guess like Talon. You know, Zed. Kiana is a big one. You have other champions that probably shouldn't be using Predator, like mages. You know, you have Twisted Fate using Predator. You have Veigar using Predator. I mean, hell, probably even, I remember at Worlds, like, not this year, but like 2 years ago, Malzahar used to use Predator, right? So it's like, it has been a rune that people have flexed into in the past, but never to this degree. So apparently Riot thinks that there's too many champions outside of the intended users who are taking Predator. Now, who are the intended users for Predator, right? Well, I would say obviously one of the most intended users for I can't speak. One of the most intended users for Predator are champions like Singed, champions that don't really have a very one-size-fits-all keystone that they can take into the vast majority of games. Like, most champions have a keystone that they can run into basically every game without changing. Singed does not have that, right? So Predator is a good solution for him because it allows him to approach a lot of these matchups while being able to like play the game in a way where he can actually participate in a fight without getting just permanently kited. At the price, obviously, that comes the price where you're paying for your keystone with it, right? So instead of having a keystone that's going to be doing or giving you a lot of value, you're having a keystone that is basically where the only function is to get you into a fight. I think that type of champion is the intended class for Predator, and I think that the rune has sort of escaped that boundary, and yeah, I will agree. It is sort of pushing into the territory of maybe these other champions shouldn't be using Predator. Like you know, a good example was like I remember seeing Doublelift playing Predator Jhin, right? And I was like, yeah, that probably shouldn't be happening, but let's think about why that's happening, right? Why is it happening? Is it really because of the movement speed? You know, I'm not so sure, because when you think about it, I guess I'll bring up my list of points here, because when you think about it, right? One of the things that really stands out to me about Predator currently is that the damage and the cooldown, right? So now we're talking about why I think that they're approaching the nerf incorrectly. So the damage and the cooldown, the damage is way too high on the rune, and the cooldown is way too low. Especially when you consider Ingenious Hunter, right? Ingenious Hunter pushes this rune's cooldown way too low. Okay. With fully stacked Ingenious Hunter, you can have the cooldown of Predator down to around 40 seconds. Before you even stack Ingenious Hunter, you can have the cooldown of the rune at level 1 as low as it would be at level 18 without Ingenious Hunter, with 0 stacks. So the base cooldown of Predator is 90 seconds to 60 seconds, okay? With Ingenious Hunter from level 1, it is 60 seconds. With Ingenious Hunter 5 stacks, it's 40 seconds. So just straight up, the Ingenious Hunter rune completely breaks Predator. It pushes it into actual ridiculous levels of usability because the cooldown becomes way too low. That's probably one check mark already for champions that, you know, are not meant to use Predator to then flex into the rune to start abusing Predator, right? Now, what's the other check mark? The other check mark is the fact that the rune just has way too much damage. The base damage of Predator, for whatever reason, is actually higher than Electrocute. Now, Electrocute, obviously, you know, Electrocute does not, Predator obviously does not scale as well as Electrocute does, but with Ingenious Hunter being able to push the cooldown of the rune so low, and, you know, the ability to just, like, sort of always have it on being there, you end up having, like, games, at least for me, on Singed, where the damage can, like, almost be equal to champions on my team who are using Electrocute. That should not be happening. The damage of Predator should never be anywhere near the damage of a champion using Electrocute. Now, if I can do that on Singed, where I'm not even using my, like, engage damage every single time, right? Then why is it, I'm wondering, like, if someone's playing an Assassin, or if someone's playing a mage like Twisted Fate or Vagra, and they're hitting their Predator every single time, wouldn't their damage be higher than if they had Electrocute? Because they would be using the Keystone more frequently on a lower cooldown than Electrocute. Meaning that the damage and cooldown of Predator are way too high, right? So think about it. Is it really truly the speed that is pushing this rune over the line that is giving the ability for other champion classes to abuse it in ways that are not intentional? Or is it the fact that it's just way too, like, available, it's doing way too much damage, and it's just, like, basically becoming a better version of Electrocute, right? I tend to think that it's more so the fact that the cooldown is way too low with Ingenious Hunter, and the movement speed is not the issue. The damage is way too high, and the movement speed's not the issue, right? It's the damage and the cooldown. So I think that they should be nerfing the damage and the cooldown instead. You know, I don't know why they think that nerfing the movement speed is a good idea. Because the problem with nerfing the movement speed is that there is so much mobility creep in the game that the 45% version oftentimes cannot feel like enough to actually catch that. Now, I just want to say this before everybody freaks out about the fact that they are, like, nerfing it in this way. I do not think that the rune will become unusable on Singed. I think that the rune will still be fine on Singed. On Singed specifically. Because now with Singed in Season 12, we have way better items. We have, coming into Season 12, we'll have way better items, right? Actual usable items. And we'll have anti-healing on Ultimate, right? So those two things alone, I think, combined with the fact that Predator is just, like, naturally a good rune on Singed, I think that it'll be fine. You know, and so before you guys freak out and start, like, oh, Minish Cap, what do I do? What do I do? It will be fine. Things will be okay for Singed. That being said, I just disagree with the way in which they're nerfing the rune, because I don't think that they're addressing the actual problems of the rune, right? So, I guess one of my other points here that I've written down is non-Predator class champions that were abusing Predator will just move back to abusing Conqueror, right? So they're also buffing Conqueror here, so which means universally every champion that can use Conqueror is going to be getting a slight buff here. But what that also means is that these Assassins who stopped abusing Conqueror to start abusing Predator will just go and abuse Conqueror again instead. This is not only an issue, I guess, with, like, Predator and Conqueror, but it's sort of an issue that's, like, intrinsic to the idea of Runes Reforged and a Keystone system, or, like, a talent tree system in general, is that certain champions who cannot use the Keystones as well as other champions will always be at the mercy of what the more I guess, Keystone independent champions can use or abuse, right? For an example, these Assassin champions, right? they can very clearly go in and out of switching from different keystones whenever one gets nerfed and the other gets buffed, right? But the problem is you have champions like Singed who are very reliant on certain things, or like and then when those things get nerfed, they aren't really as able to like change as easily as the assassin class, because they don't abuse these you know, options quite as well, or quite as like widely. You know, that being said, I do think Singed is a very flexible champion, and I think that I think that Singe's like overall power level is not always like going to be affected as hard as other champions when things get buffed or nerfed, because Singed has a lot of options. I think one of the more beautiful things about Singed, I'm gonna go on a little bit of a aside here, I think one of the most beautiful things about Singed as a champion is just how flexible he is, right? There's so many different builds, there's so many different ways to play him. If you want to play one way, you can play one way, and if you want to play another way, you can play another way, right? Like right now, there are so many different, right now in preseason 12, there's so many different ways to play Singed. You can play full AP, you can play Predator, you know, you can play full tank, you can play, like, hell, you can even play jungle. Like right now, it's actually quite good. There's so many different ways to play him. He's like probably the only champion in the game where you can really make him feel the way that you want to make him feel. Like, used to be, you could do that with most champions. Nowadays, it's really only Singed that still feels that way. And this is a blessing and a curse, right? Because if something that you know, you're using for the way that you like to play becomes abused by other champion classes, there's a very high chance that thing gets nerfed, right? But it's also a blessing because you can sometimes flex into other things and find a different way to play that you still enjoy, right? That is one of the most beautiful things about Singed, and just the design of the character in general, and that I absolutely love. But it does come with like positives and negatives, right? And this is an example of a negative, is the Predator rune being nerfed, because, you know, it's being abused very hard by so many different champions, apparently. And even that point is not even like, even that point I think is up for debate, because like how many champions do you actually see in your games using Predator, right? If you don't count, okay, so if you're playing Singed and you're using Predator, if you don't count yourself, how many other champions do you see using Predator? Not that many, right? I've been doing some digging. I've been going through a lot of games played on both NA and EU ladder in the last like 3 or 4 days, and on average you have maybe 2 people like using Predator, right? But not even that. Like, usually it's even just 1 person using Predator, and most games there's no people using Predator. So they definitely feel that there is I think that the community has had a bit of a knee-jerk reaction to this. I also think that Riot is sort of overreacting to it, but fine, you know, whatever. If they want to nerf it, I understand them wanting to nerf it. I just think they're going about it in the wrong way, because there are things about the rune that are very unhealthy, such as the damage on the cooldown, that should be addressed that are not being addressed. When you take the specific power, right? When you nerf what a rune is meant to do, you're taking away the identity of the rune, right? The whole point of Predator is to run fast. That's it. That's the whole point. When you nerf that down, the identity becomes sort of muddy, right? It sort of mixes in with everything else. Because if the rune doesn't move fast enough, it's just a worse version of Electrocute. You know what I mean? So you need to let runes have their identity. But that's why I think that they're like nerfing it, or part of the reason, I guess, why I think they're going about nerfing it in the wrong way. I know I should have organized my thoughts probably a bit better, excuse me, for this video, but I wanted to get it done in one take, because it's very late at night, and I wanted to get this video out for you guys in the morning. But yeah, that's the gist of my point number 1. I'm gonna move on to point number 2, and this is actually more Singed specific. So before you guys, you know, get your bussy in a bunch, these next points are actually a little bit more Singed specific, and I'm gonna be excuse me. Ooh, I'm gonna be speaking about points 2 and 3 in a more Singed centric context. So one of the things that people keep saying within the Singed mains community is that Predator is really OP. It's so OP, you know, it's super unskilled, very brain dead. Anyone and their mom can play Predator, but the stats don't really back that up. And let me show you. So when you look at Singed and you look at the, let me just put a timestamp for that section. When you look at the actual stats, so you can go on u.gg, look at runes table. When you look at the actual stats, it actually turns out that Conqueror, before they're buffing it, and before the Predator nerf, Conqueror is actually outperforming Predator in every elo above Platinum. So Diamond Plus, Conqueror with a higher win rate, right? And very high pick rate still. Diamond 2 Plus, Conqueror with a much higher win rate and a very good, very healthy pick rate. Master Plus, Conqueror with almost 10% higher win rate and 21% pick rate. All right, you sort by Grandmaster. Conqueror is, almost 20% higher win rate with a 22% pick rate. You sort by Challenger, Conqueror is still much higher win rate and a very high pick rate. So it's like you can act like Predator on Singed is like this end all be all super overpowered rune, but the stats don't back that up, right? The statistics literally show the opposite. The statistics literally show that Conqueror is more powerful, right? So there is an issue within the Singed mains community where they're like, I guess not everyone, but a lot of them are very convinced that like Conqueror is the only way that you should play Singed. Now for me, I've always believed that you should play Singed however the fuck you want to play Singed, right? You should play him how you feel that you have the most fun playing him, because that's one of the beautiful things about the champion is that, he's so flexible in the way that you can approach him. You can really like sort of find your own play style with him, right? Now, yes, there will always be times when certain things are stronger than other things, for sure, but it's never going to be that one play style is so much better that you can't play a different play style on the champion, right? I don't think that, a lot of the people who are making this argument are really, that skilled at Singed, because if they were, then they would understand that, you can obviously play Singed in more than one playstyle. I do it all the time. You can flex different builds, you can flex different runes, you can approach the game in different ways. In season 10, I got Challenger playing Spellbook Singed, right? In season 11, I did Challenger playing Predator Singed. So it's not even like just a me thing. You can push rating playing different styles of Singed. That is completely possible. But I think that the community, the Singed mains community specifically, has a sort of a very toxic mentality around this, where if you're they feel that if you're not playing Conqueror, then you are not playing the way it's meant to be played. When, historically, Singed has always been played in a much more Predator-centric, way anyways. Before Runes Are Forged, his playstyle was much closer to how Predator actually plays than how Conqueror plays. That's just my opinion, right? And bear in mind, I'm not personally attacking anybody who enjoys playing Conqueror Singed, even though it's not my preferred way to play Singed. Every once in a while, I do enjoy, playing a little bit of Conqueror, but it's not my preferred way to play. That being said, even though it's not my preferred way to play, I'm not going to I'm not going to discount the fact that people do like to play him that way. I get it, right? I get it. For me, I just find it to be boring sometimes, even though sometimes I want to play it. Most of the time I do find it to actually be a little bit boring, because I find that Conqueror Singed for me is just way too slow, kind of boring. It's just like watching paint dry. You get a kill or two in lane, and then a lot of the time you're kind of just useless afterwards, Whereas with Predator, I can run fast, pass gas, just go in and out and do what I need to do on Singed to be able to fight properly. And that's why I enjoy it. I feel like Predator is a very synergistic rune, whereas Conqueror is more of an all around sort of like, I can have a little bit of power here, a little bit of power there. So I really hope that people in the Singed mains community, especially when it comes to this issue, can like sort of open their eyes a little bit and just see that there is definitely different ways to play the champion. There's more than one way to approach this character. If you don't believe me, I mean, I think my achievements on the champion speak for themselves. I've hit Challenger many times playing this champion in many different ways. So that being said, let's move on. So this I think point number 3 is a really big issue, especially within the Singed community. The Singed player community is that Singed players just don't like having nice things, right? And this was very apparent with the Predator changes. But basically my point here is that Singed players, they're just so scared of their resources like being good or usable that they feel guilty about it because they're scared of future nerfs, right? They're scared of having nice things. They're scared of having good runes. They're scared of having good items because they're terrified that these things will get nerfed. This has been happening throughout Singe's history, going as far back as Season 4. This sort of this problem sort of stems from the fact that the champion is super flexible. So when you find something good on him, it's a lot of the time always going to be like better on another champion. Even if something is great on Singed, it tends to be the pattern that it will be amazing on somebody else, right? So when Rylai's had the 40% slow, it was good on Singed. It was completely broken on like Victor, right? When before the old Leandries, before they nerfed the damage on it, like it was good on Singed, right? But it was broken on so many other mages like Brand and Malzahar, right? Another example is like the old Summon Aerie. It was good on Singed, but completely broken on every enchanter support, right? And even every mage that could use it. So that's sort of a curse of having a champion that's so flexible, but I think that this cycle of like finding something cool for Singed and having that being nerfed has happened so often with Singed throughout the course of Singe's history that Singed players have just become like mentally scarred at like the idea of having something good for their champion or having something being like fun for their champion. My sub point about this is basically, I feel that they're so frustrated when that they're so used to being frustrated when they're playing their champion that they feel like the frustration should be the norm, right? Like almost like Singed players, they really want to like have that struggle of fighting a constant uphill battle. Like if you're not like they feel like if you're not actively punishing yourself by playing the champion, that it's not the right way to be, if that makes sense. Like they feel like the frustration, because it's been happening so long, should be part of the experience of playing Singed. And they're not used to Riot giving them something good. And my response is basically, why shouldn't we have something nice? You know, why has the Singed community been so convinced that they shouldn't have nice things? Like, I guess not even just regarding League of Legends, but just like as an approach to life in general. Like, why do you feel that? Why should anybody feel as if they don't deserve to have nice things? Like, excuse me, water break. When you play League of Legends, part of the goal of playing League of Legends is to feel powerful. Okay? And that's part of the goal with not just League of Legends, but like many video games. So why I guess, and if you spent any significant amount of time within the Singed mains community, you will see this and notice this. Singed mains are very uncomfortable with having nice things, because I guess over the course of so many years, just losing nice things over and over, they've gotten conditioned to be like, that's normal. We shouldn't have nice things. That's normal. It'll just gonna get taken away from us. They'll just nerf it, right? We shouldn't have nice things. And my response is just don't ever approach not just League of Legends, but don't ever approach your life in that way where you feel that you don't deserve nice things because you're afraid of it being taken away. Don't do that. you should always actively strive for the best for yourself, whether it's in game or in real life. You should always strive for the best thing that you can possibly have for yourself every time, every single time, right? And I guess this is sort of an aside, sort of more of a philosophical life point, but love yourself and respect yourself, and always strive for the absolute best for yourself, because no one else is going to do as much for you as you can do for you. Okay, so moving on. When I brought this point up in my Twitch chat, I had two messages that really stuck out to me. One person said, "Singed feels wrong at being actually good." I was like, I think every Singed player has gone through this at one point, where like all of a sudden, you know, something fun and usable for the champion happens. Like maybe they buff an item or rune or something, and you're like, wow, this is really good. Oh god, are they gonna nerf it? This doesn't feel right. And another message that kind of stuck out to me was another person said, I kind of get it with the new items. The second the second I saw how good they looked, I was instantly afraid Riot would nerf Singed. Like that's the reaction like some people have been having to a lot of these, and I see it in my YouTube comments all the time too. Oh my god, like people will like they'll go and play like the new demonic embrace, they'll come on my video, they'll be like, Minish Cap, I just tried the new demonic embrace, oh god, they're gonna nerf it, aren't they? I'm just like, oh my god, dude, just don't be so scared of the nerf. You deserve nice things, you deserve to have fun, you deserve to have powerful items, you deserve to have powerful runes, you deserve to have a strong champion when you dedicate that much time into it. You deserve nice things. Like, oh my god, dude, it's just okay, I'm not gonna let this video drag on too much longer. If you guys have stayed with me for the last 26 minutes, I really appreciate it. But yeah, point 1 is the big one in this video. Points 2 and 3 are sort of more personal, but I guess it sort of ties in. You know, I guess going back to an addendum to point 2, I'm really not sure what the win rates are for a lot of champions who are abusing Predator, as opposed to champions that it's actually made to be used on, like Singed. But that's, I guess, like I could go and check it right now, but whatever, I'm not going to. Either way, I just don't agree with the way that they're nerfing Predator. I think that I think that Singed will be fine. I think Predator Singed will still be absolutely playable. I don't think that it's going to kill the rune on Singed, because we have way better items now, because we have anti-healing on Ultimate. I think Predator Singed will be just fine, honestly. I'm not going to stop playing it. I don't think if you enjoy it, I don't think you should stop playing it either. But I just don't agree with the way that they're nerfing I guess, the actual, the rune itself. So, alright guys, hope you enjoyed that one. I'm going to call it there for this video, and hope to see you in the next one.